A chance encounter, a chance at happiness. Blue brings out your eyes. You should wear it more. I narrowed my eyes as Eddie walked through the door, Allie in tow. He blushed and looked away. Something like an incoherent thank you came out of his mouth. They came to sit at my table, and I got up and pulled out a chair. Allie skirted past the chair, and Eddie begrudgingly went to sit next to me. I beamed at him and started chattering about random stuff. I could see that he was moving further away, and I was moving closer till he reached the end of his chair. Allie bit into her bagel, trying so hard to hide her smirk. She was the one who actually came up with the idea for the three of us to meet, since I didn't really know Eddie that well and he was so reserved towards me. I guess it had to do with the fact that I was Alison's male bestie, something that we had tried to clear. He gave Alison a pleading look, but he just stood up and said she was going to the bathroom. She's so lucky to have you. You are so smart and talented. I smiled, leaning back. I did not want to make him too uncomfortable. How so? I asked. You play piano, right? Alison has shared some of your recordings, I revealed. He turned bright red, but I could see that he was gleaming with happiness. Thanks, man, he said. We talked for a couple of minutes while Alison was gone. I did not overstep my boundaries though. I did tease him a few times because I enjoyed his reaction so much. Yeah, I wish I had something like you too. Someone like you. I emphasized the you. He stopped relaxing and fixed me with a very blank expression. At that moment, Alison came back and took a seat. Babe, can we talk? He asked her. She nodded and they went off. He started to explain something to her, gesturing all over the place and looking at me cautiously. I drank my tea. He was most likely snitching that I was coming on to him. Oh well, the game was over, but I did enjoy making him squirm. Alison came back to me with a stormy expression on her face, with him in tow. Why? She said. Why what? Why have you been flirting with my boyfriend? You should stop. Tell him, babe. I thought he was cool, but I think he likes me. Sorry, man. You're a good person and all, but I do not play for your team. He chimed in. Yeah, I know. I'm also straight, man. I grinned, dropping the facade of the high-pitched voice I had been using on him for weeks. I was surprised that I was able to keep it up for long, but it was all a prank on him. He looked at me in disbelief. Then he lightly punched me on the shoulder. Man, that was cool. He laughed. Alison held onto the back of her chair to keep from collapsing from giggles. He looked at her as well, and the realization set in his face that she was in on it. Alison had been dating Eddie for a couple of months. Eddie was a nice guy, but did not seem to want to get to know me as Alison's friend. So we came up with a plan for me to act gay, so he would be less concerned about me since we felt it was a matter of jealousy. He was not mean about it to Alison, but we did manage to put two and two together. So for a few weeks I acted gay, but the catch was that I would subtly flirt with him just to mess with his head a little bit. But in the process, I just wanted to get to know him a bit more since he was dating my best friend. Eddie was a bit mad that we tricked him like that, but soon we were all laughing about it. It appeared that the prank was the one thing we needed to break the ice between the two of us. From that day on, Eddie and I became very good friends, even after we deceived him. Every once in a while, I would tease him about it by jokingly flirting with him, but it was just an inside joke that carried on for the rest of the year. It was the end of the year at a Christmas party after I only had one shot that I made a big mistake. I was super tired because work had run late and I was going through stuff with my landlord. It did not help that I did not have the correct glasses on because of the stupid mistake I made that morning. Yes, my day was messed up, but I did cheer up once I got to the party and saw all my friends. I even saw Kayla, the girl I had been talking to for a few days at the party, and we had a couple of conversations. She went off because one of her friends called her away. But I spotted a familiar head of dark hair by the drinks table and I grinned. The idea went into my head, and before I dismissed it, I went towards him and hugged him from behind. He turned around and I gave him a light peck on the cheek. I was shocked when I felt a hand wrap around my waist and a kiss at the corner of my lips. Then a light whisper into my ear. Interesting way to greet me. Did I miss the mistletoe? A low voice uttered. I felt every vibration of this man's voice go to the bottom of my feet, then I pulled away as if shocked. Even with the little vision I had, I could see that it was certainly not Eddie. That was because I could hear Eddie and Alison laughing behind me. I felt like having the earth swallow me and not leave a trace of myself because I was so embarrassed. "Oh, sorry. Dance with me?" he asked. I could make out that he was good looking, wearing a very eye-catching shirt. I looked into his eyes and found that I wanted to dance with him beside everything. He was friendly yet inviting. This was not what I wanted to do. I was trying to prank Eddie, and this man was making me so confused. "I'm so sorry. I promised my friend that I would help her with something." "No worries. We can dance later." He left, his scent lingering on my clothes. On the other hand, Eddie and Alison were clutching their tummies, laughing. "Babe, your boyfriend is cheating on you," Alison said. "It appears so," Eddie replied. I just rolled my eyes. "This is thanks to you two, dragging me here knowing I do not have the proper glasses on." "Why do you still have those things on? You will just harm your eyes," Alison said as she took them off. Now it was a whole lot better. Not perfect though. The rest of the night went well. In fact, it was a night that I will never forget. I did end up dancing with Evan, the guy I mistook for Eddie earlier on, and he was a very cool person. We were both tipsy, but we clicked very well, talking about anything. I wanted to tell him several times that I was not gay, and that it was a complicated situation, but when he even touched my shoulder, I forgot it all. As I spent more time with him, something became to me to the front of my mind, but I pushed it back. After my dance with him, we went to sit with my friends. We were just talking about the last concert he went to when he asked, "Hey, I have tickets for this private dance lesson a friend gave me, but it is a couple's dance thing, and I cannot go alone." Was he asking me out on a date? Like he was a cool guy, but I was straight. I should have cleared stuff up back then, but I was too ashamed and shy about the whole situation. Eddie and Alison were silent while I took some time to answer. I was about to formulate some sort of excuse. "That sounds great. You should go," Eddie chimed in. I turned to glare at him, but he just grinned. "Yes, true." My best friend agreed with her boyfriend. I was backed into a corner and everyone was looking at me, so I just nodded. He beamed and gave me a warm hug that released all the tension in my body. What had I just done? And how was I going to explain to him later on that it was not really a date? I could not back out now. That would be rude. And those two rascals set me up like that. But it was not with ill intentions. Alison reminded me that I needed a break from all that had been going on. I got home and headed to bed soon after. Right after ignoring yet another letter telling me that I had to move. This was the second letter this week letting me know that if I did not move, they would take legal action. The ones who could afford to move, but for some of us, moving would cost us more money than we had. So we stayed, signed petitions, and protested, but there was nothing that was working to stop the majority stakeholders of our apartment building from kicking us out to renovate it into luxury apartments. We had only seen the guy a handful of times, but he was not willing to listen to our pleas for just a few more months so we could make alternate arrangements for a place to stay. Before bed, I ripped the notice up and put it in a bin unread. Tomorrow, I would put in more hours so I would get more money and so I could afford to move out. I forgot about our date in the next couple of days. I even forgot that there was such a thing as a social life, as I tried to look for a loophole for us to stay or extra cash for me to just give up and move. He called me a couple of days later, asking for my address, so he could send the clothes for the dance lesson. We started talking after that, and I realized that we really clicked well. He did not even flirt with me. He was very respectful, and treated it like just a night on the town. But I was freaking out. Luckily, I had Alison to help me out. Turns out I had no reason to be stressed because I had a very good time on the date. We had the dance lesson, after which he took me for some fast food. I do aim to regain the calories I just lost. He flashed me a grin. "Count me in." "I'm so tired. You barely look like you broke a sweat," I revealed. "Years of tutelage under my mom, back when she stayed with us," he said. "Where is she, if you don't mind me asking?" "In another town, with a new family." I do not blame her. My dad, he is... I started, but he changed the topic and started rambling about something else. Later that night, "So, did you tell him?" Are you guys at least friends? He is a cool guy, Alison said. Well, not quite. I did not tell him anything. I do not know what is going on, Alison. I wanted to add more, but I was at a loss for words. Hey, just make the most of this. You sound so much happier today. He has a good effect on you, she said. Thanks, Allie. Good night, I said. Good night, she replied. I also heard Eddie replying in the background. So I did what she said and I kept on talking to him, though there was not always time with both of our busy schedules. But with time, I began to see the confident personality that he had, and I admired it. He told me about how he came out to his unsupportive dad and had been living his best life since. I wished I could have such confidence, but I was so confused about my sexuality, and I just wanted things to develop slowly. We talked for months but could not meet up because of our busy schedules, but I started to feel some butterflies when he called me. We both expressed the desire to go on the second date, but I found that it was me that was stalling. However, he came over for a movie one night and we almost kissed. We were so close, but we got interrupted by the door. When I got to the door, it was my other landlord. 2 weeks, Cain, then you need to be gone, he said, then he left. Of course, I cursed as I kicked the door behind him. I tried to calm down. It was not my fault but that of the majority shareholder who was being unreasonable. But my anger was still killing me, so I punched the wall, letting out a little scream when pain resulted from it. He came from nowhere and just touched my shoulder. He took my hand and gently led me to my bathroom, where he washed it off and put on a band-aid without saying anything. You could have told me, he said. You could have done nothing, I explained. Maybe, but you have been juggling a lot with your family, your job, and home. Remember what I said? He said. Yes, you will always be there for me, I repeated. I realized that I did not let him in, but maybe I should have. We went back to my living room where I told him everything while he held me. I'm tired of always taking care of everything and everyone, I said. Then let me take care of this. Let me help you, he said. It's too late. There are only 2 weeks left, I sighed, but still buried my head in his chest, clearing my racing thoughts. The next day, why are we here? I asked as we stood at the reception of a building I had never been to. We passed through reception without being questioned but being warned that he was in a meeting. I clutched the folder that had all the signatures as well as complaints, wondering if he brought me to see a lawyer or something. He just told me to come with him quietly and not ask any questions. We came to some double doors which he opened to reveal a room full of people sitting around the table and a man speaking in front. I got instant anxiety. We had now just crashed the meeting, and I tried to turn back, but his fingers dug into my hand. Trust me, he said, and let go. What now? I'm in a very important meeting, Evan, the older man in front of us said. Oh, because you plan to displace people with nowhere to go, Dad? He asked. That is enough. Please leave. Evan's dad tried to remain calm. Evan looked at me and I started to speak about how it was going to affect our lives, while the disinterested investors just stared. It felt like speaking to a brick wall. It would never work. Eventually, my voice trailed off. We are trying to close a multi-million-dollar deal here, son. Please leave, a man said. And George, what is your son doing with that man? Why is your son dressed like one of those queers? Another woman commented, staring Evan down. He has more class than you do, I replied before I could stop it. He did. I liked the eccentric way he dressed and how proud of himself he was. I was falling for that part of his personality. Dad, please just stop this, Evan said. Why? What is this boy to you? You're embarrassing me, he spat. My boyfriend, why? Ethan held my hand and I felt that much stronger. The people in the room gasped before they started turning to each other. That is ridiculous, son. You're not gay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my son is a prankster. His father tried to salvage the situation. We are meant to build a brand based on certain values, and your family does not reflect that. We are withdrawing our funding. An investor spoke. Yes, the project was off. We left that room laughing at the look of disbelief on his dad's face. He will never recover from that, he laughed. I thought you were already out, I started. Not to his investors. I had to keep myself on the down low while his investors were out of town, he explained. So, I am your boyfriend, huh? I raised an eyebrow and relished in him turning flustered. I was thinking that maybe we could go on a second date before we become official, I said. Yes, of course. I was not implying anything. It was just for my dad. He looked down. I titled his chin up and kissed him softly, of which he reciprocated. Thank you for everything, I said. What he did for me made me realize just how much I respected him. It was not easy, coming to terms with myself and being in a gay couple because of what people would say. But with him by my side, I became more confident. Also, I asked him to become my boyfriend after the third date, much to the delight of Eddie and Alison, who had been egging me on to confess my feelings since the second date. Interesting turn of events, right? But at least everything worked out in the end. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force. And stay wholesome.